My son-in-law called me a worthless old fool in front of his entire office. My name is Theodore Whitman. I am 67 years old and I have spent 40 years building wealth in ways most people cannot imagine. What Bradley did not know when he humiliated me that Tuesday afternoon was simple. I own the company where he works. Not just own it, I chair the board. For 18 months I had been watching from the shadows as this arrogant young man slowly destroyed everything I had built. But family comes first, right? I thought my daughter Emily deserved happiness. I thought maybe I was being an overprotective father. I was wrong. The moment Bradley looked me in the eye and said those words, "Listen, old man. This is a real workplace. Why don't you go home and watch TV?" Something inside me shifted. The other employees stopped talking. The receptionist looked mortified. And I just stood there, calm as still water, knowing that very soon Bradley Hutchinson would learn who really held the power. See, in chess a pawn sometimes thinks it is attacking the king until it discovers the piece across from it is not a king at all. It is the queen. This story has more twists than a ship in a storm. And by the end you will understand why respect is not something you inherit through marriage. It is something you earn through character. If you are watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Trust me, you will not want to miss how this ends. Let me take you back to where it all began. 3:30 in the afternoon, October 15th, 42nd floor of Pinnacle Capital Group, the building I had walked into thousands of times as the founder and chairman, the company worth $710 million that my son-in-law thought belonged to someone else. I was there for a simple reason. Emily had been distant lately and I wanted to surprise her for lunch, maybe finally meet this husband she had been married to for 2 years but somehow kept separate from her old life. As I stepped off the elevator I noticed something I had missed in all my secret board meetings held in the private conference room. The way the security guards nodded respectfully when they saw me. The way the CFO Andrew Stone straightened up and looked nervous. The way Bradley Hutchinson, my own son-in-law, had absolutely no idea that the worthless old man standing in front of him controlled every dollar of his salary. But he was about to find out. Let me explain how I ended up watching my own company from the shadows. 18 months ago when Emily announced her engagement to Bradley I did what any protective father would do. I ran a background check. Harvard MBA, summa cum laude, 3 years at Goldman Sachs, stellar performance reviews, the kind of resume that impresses other people's daughters. But numbers on paper do not tell you about character. I founded Pinnacle Capital Group in 1987 with $200,000 and a conviction that American businesses deserved better than predatory lending. 40 years later we manage $12 billion in assets. Our clients include Fortune 500 companies, pension funds, and 3 sovereign wealth funds. Bradley knew none of this. When Emily introduced us at their engagement party she simply said, "Dad, this is Bradley. Brad, my father." No mention of Pinnacle. No mention of my role in building one of the most respected investment firms on Wall Street. Emily had always been private about family money and I respected that. I should have paid more attention to why she felt the need to hide it. The wedding was beautiful. Small ceremony, 50 guests, Emily radiant in her grandmother's dress. Bradley charmed everyone with his stories about making it big on Wall Street. I noticed he never mentioned which firm he worked for. When people asked about his success he would smile and change the subject. Red flag number 1. After the honeymoon Emily started changing. She had been calling me twice a week since college. We were close, always had been. Suddenly those calls dropped to once a month. When I would suggest lunch she was busy. When I would invite them both to dinner Bradley had work commitments. Red flag number 2. That is when I decided to do something I had never done before. I used my connections to investigate my own son-in-law. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Bradley Hutchinson worked at Pinnacle Capital Group, my company. He had been hired 8 months before he met Emily, which meant one of 2 things. Either this was the most incredible coincidence in the history of modern dating, or Bradley had specifically targeted my daughter. But here is the thing that really got my attention. His salary was $120,000 a year. Respectable for a junior investment manager, but not enough to afford the lifestyle he was showing Emily, the BMW, the expensive dinners, the weekend trips to Martha's Vineyard. So where was the extra money coming from? I made a decision that night. I would become the silent chairman of my own board, attend meetings virtually when possible, delegate day-to-day operations to Andrew Stone our CFO, and watch, listen, learn. For 18 months I sat in boardroom presentations where Bradley would pitch investment strategies, never knowing the old man he had married into was taking notes 3 seats away. I watched him charm clients, impress colleagues, and slowly build a reputation as one of our rising stars. I also watched him lie. Small lies at first, claiming credit for deals he had inherited from previous managers, exaggerating his role in successful transactions. Then bigger lies, expense reports that did not add up, client meeting locations that did not exist. The final straw came 3 weeks ago when Andrew Stone approached me with concerns about irregular wire transfers. $850,000 moved in small increments over 6 months to an account in the Cayman Islands. Account holder, B. Hutchinson. I could have confronted Bradley then, could have had him arrested, fired, prosecuted, but I needed to understand something first. Was Emily involved, or was she another victim? The answer came when I hired Detective Susan Mitchell, a former FBI agent who specializes in financial fraud investigations. What she discovered about my son-in-law's double life would have destroyed most fathers. But I am not most fathers. I built Pinnacle Capital by staying calm under pressure, thinking 3 moves ahead, and never making emotional decisions. Bradley thought he was playing chess with an old man who did not understand the rules. He had no idea he was playing against someone who had written the rule book. That Tuesday afternoon when I walked into Pinnacle's lobby, I was not there by accident. Emily had mentioned she might stop by Bradley's office after her doctor's appointment. I wanted to see them together, to understand the dynamic, to figure out whether my daughter was being manipulated or was complicit in her husband's crimes. What I got instead was a masterclass in arrogance. "Excuse me," I said to the receptionist. "I'm looking for Bradley Hutchinson." "He's in the conference room with clients," she replied. "Can I ask who's calling?" Before I could answer, Bradley appeared from around the corner. He looked at me with the kind of expression you would give a vagrant who had wandered in from the street. "Can I help you?" His tone was dismissive, already turning away. "I'm Theodore Whitman, Emily's father." His expression shifted, but not to recognition, to annoyance. And that is when he said the words that changed everything. "Listen, old man. This is a real workplace. Why don't you go home and watch TV?" The conference room went silent. I stood there absorbing the disrespect, cataloging the witnesses, and making a decision that would alter the course of several lives. I smiled. "I'll do that," I said. "Thank you for the suggestion." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard him telling his colleagues, "Sorry about that. Family drama, you know." If he only knew. 24 hours after Bradley's public humiliation, I received a call that made everything clear. "Mr. Whitman," the voice belonged to Janet Morrison, Emily's longtime friend and now our head of human resources. "We need to discuss a situation involving your son-in-law." I was in my study reviewing the quarterly reports Bradley himself had submitted to the board. The irony was not lost on me. "What kind of situation, Janet?" "Yesterday after the incident in the lobby, Bradley filed a complaint with security. He's requesting that a Theodore Whitman be banned from the building for harassment and disrupting business operations." I set down the reports. "Is that so?" "Sir, I've known you for 15 years. I was there when you hired me. But according to our employment records, Bradley Hutchinson has no idea you're the chairman of this company. He genuinely believes he's protecting Pinnacle Capital from some random elderly man who wandered in off the street." The audacity was breathtaking. "Janet, I want you to do exactly what he asks. Make sure security has my photo. Tell them Theodore Whitman is banned from all company premises except board meetings and my private office." "Sir, are you sure?" "Absolutely. And Janet, don't mention this conversation to anyone." "Not yet." That evening Emily called for the first time in 3 weeks. "Dad, I heard what happened at Bradley's office." Her voice was strained, defensive. "He said you were causing problems." "Did he? Now what kind of problems?" "He said you were bothering his colleagues, asking inappropriate questions about his work." "Dad, he's really embarrassed. His boss might think he can't handle his personal life." I chose my words carefully. "Emily, when have you ever known me to cause problems for anyone?" Silence. "Then, I don't know, Dad. You've been acting strange lately, always asking about Bradley's work, wanting to meet his friends. It's like you don't trust him." "Do you trust him?" Another pause, longer this time. "Of course I trust him. He's my husband." But something in her voice suggested otherwise. "Emily, I want you to know something. Whatever happens in the coming weeks, whatever you hear about Bradley or his work, I want you to remember that I love you. Everything I do because I'm your father." "You're scaring me, Dad." "What's going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about. How are you feeling, sweetheart? You sounded tired last time we talked." "I've been having trouble sleeping and my memory's been foggy lately. Bradley thinks I should see Dr. Harrison again, maybe adjust my medication." Dr. Harrison, the same doctor who had prescribed Emily anxiety medication after her mother's death 5 years ago, medication she had stopped taking 2 years ago because she did not need it anymore. Red flag number 3. "Emily, Are you taking medication again? Just something to help me relax. Bradley's been so stressed with work and I don't want to add to his pressure by being emotional. My every instinct I had developed in 4 decades of business was screaming, but I forced my voice to remain calm. Of course, sweetheart. Take care of yourself. And Emily, if you ever need anything at all, you call me immediately. Promise? I promise, Dad. I love you. After she hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my study and made a list, not a business plan or investment strategy, but something far more personal, a battle plan to save my daughter's life. First, I would document Bradley's financial crimes with forensic precision. Second, I would investigate the medication Emily was taking and who was prescribing it. Third, I would discover exactly how deep Bradley's deception went. And fourth, I would ensure that when the truth finally came to light, it would be so overwhelming, so undeniable, that no amount of charm or manipulation could save him. I reached for my phone and dialed Detective Susan Mitchell. Susan, it's Theodore Whitman. I need you to accelerate the investigation and I need you to add a new element. Medical records for my daughter Emily Hutchinson, née Whitman. I believe she's being drugged. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Whitman. I'm a serious man. And Susan, after 18 months of watching from the shadows, I'm done being patient. The real game is about to begin. 3 days later, Andrew Stone walked into my private office with a manila folder that would change everything. Theodore, we have a problem. Andrew had been my CFO for 12 years. I had never seen him look this grim. Show me. He opened the folder and spread out bank statements, wire transfer receipts, and client account summaries across my mahogany desk. It's worse than we thought. I picked up the first document, a wire transfer authorization for $400,000 dated September 15. Destination, Cayman National Bank. Account number CC 7854. Authorization signature, B. Hutchinson. How many transfers total? 17 over 6 months. The pattern is sophisticated. Never more than $50,000 at a time, always to different intermediate accounts before landing in the Caymans. Total amount, $2.3 million. I sat down the papers carefully. In 40 years of business, I had learned that the first moment you see devastating news is when you make your worst decisions. Source of funds? Client escrow accounts, money that's supposed to be held in trust while we execute their investment strategies. Andrew pulled out a second set of documents. Here's the genius of it. Bradley's been timing the transfers right before major market movements. When the accounts show gains, he covers the missing money with profits. When they show losses, the missing funds look like market volatility. Clients haven't noticed. That's the most disturbing part. Bradley specifically targets elderly clients who trust us to manage their money without micromanaging every transaction. People like Mrs. Eleanor Brennan, 83 years old, $2 million in assets. She gets quarterly statements that Bradley personally reviews before mailing. I thought about Mrs. Brennan, widow, former school teacher, the kind of client we had built Pinnacle to protect, the kind of person who represented everything I had sworn to defend when I started this company. Andrew, I want you to freeze all accounts Bradley has access to immediately. I already did. As of this morning, Bradley Hutchinson has no authorization to move any funds. I told him it was a routine security update affecting all junior managers. How did he react? That's what worries me. He didn't seem surprised. It's like he was expecting it. I walked to my window overlooking Lower Manhattan. 47 floors below, people were going about their lives trusting that institutions like Pinnacle Capital would protect their futures. Bradley had betrayed that trust with the casual cruelty of someone who had never built anything himself. There's something else, Andrew continued. The Cayman account. It's not just receiving money from Bradley. It's sending money too. Where? Monthly transfers of $12,000 to a residential account in Manhattan. The address is 415 East 79th Street, apartment 21B. I turned back to Andrew. That's not where Bradley and Emily live. No. They live on East 62nd Street. I checked the lease agreement for the 79th Street address. It's under the name Rebecca Martinez. The name meant nothing to me, but the pattern was becoming clear. How long has the apartment lease been active? 14 months. 2 months after Bradley married your daughter. I sat down heavily in my chair. This was not just embezzlement. This was a systematic dismantling of everything Bradley had touched, including my daughter's life. Andrew, I need you to contact Detective Susan Mitchell. Give her copies of everything we've discussed. And I need you to do something else. Anything. Schedule an emergency board meeting for next Friday at 2 p.m. full board, no exceptions. Tell them we're discussing a significant security breach that affects the entire company. Should I mention Bradley specifically? Not yet. But make sure Bradley is in the building that day. Actually, make sure he's in the main conference room. Tell him he's being considered for a promotion and the board wants to meet him." Andrew nodded, then hesitated. "Theodore, I have to ask. Why haven't you just fired him? Had him arrested? You have enough evidence to destroy his career and put him in federal prison." It was a fair question. The answer was sitting in a medical file that Detective Mitchell had obtained through channels I did not want to think about too carefully. "Because this isn't just about money, Andrew. My daughter has been exhibiting symptoms of memory loss, fatigue, and disorientation, symptoms that started right around the time Bradley began his embezzlement scheme." "You think he's drugging her?" "I know he is. Dr. Harrison confirmed that Emily's been receiving prescriptions for Xanax and Ambien at dosages 3 times higher than therapeutic levels. Bradley's been picking up the medications and monitoring her intake." The silence in the room was profound. "So this isn't just about protecting Pinnacle's clients," Andrew said slowly. "It's about protecting Emily. Everything I've built, Andrew, this company, my reputation, my wealth, none of it means anything if I can't protect my own daughter." I picked up the wire transfer documents again. "Bradley thinks he's been clever, moving money slowly, manipulating an elderly woman, drugging my daughter to keep her compliant. He thinks he's playing a game where he knows all the rules and I don't." I smiled for the first time in days. It was not a pleasant expression. "He's been stealing from his own chairman for 6 months, Andrew. He humiliated me in front of my own employees and tried to have me banned from my own building. In exactly 1 week Bradley Hutchinson is going to learn that there are consequences for attacking a man's family." "What do you want me to tell the board?" "Tell them exactly what I told you. We have a thief in our midst and it's time to remove him." Detective Susan Mitchell called me at 11 p.m. on a Thursday night with news that made my blood run cold. "Mr. Whitman, you need to sit down for this." I was already sitting in my study reviewing financial documents for the 100th time. "I'm listening." "Rebecca Martinez is 26 years old, works as a cocktail waitress at a club in Midtown. She's been living in that apartment for 14 months and according to her neighbors she believes she's engaged to Bradley Hutchinson." I set down my reading glasses. Engaged. It gets better. I followed Bradley for 3 days. Every Tuesday and Thursday he tells Emily he's working late on client presentations. Instead he drives to 79th Street where he's been maintaining a full domestic relationship with Ms. Martinez. She showed me photos from their engagement trip to Cabo last month, the same week Emily thought he was at a conference in Chicago. Exactly. But here's the truly disturbing part. Ms. Martinez believes Bradley is a successful investment banker who's waiting for his messy divorce to be finalized. She has no idea he's currently married. I stood up and walked to my window. The city lights blurred as anger threatened my legendary composure. Financial records for the apartment. Bradley's been paying the rent directly from the Cayman account. $12,200 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment that should cost maybe $4,000. The extra money is going toward what Ms. Martinez thinks are divorce attorney fees. So he's stealing from elderly clients to maintain a second family while drugging my daughter to keep her compliant. It gets worse, Theodore. I pulled Ms. Martinez's medical records. She's been seeing the same Dr. Harrison who's treating Emily. Same medications, same dosages. Bradley's been drugging both women. The phone slipped in my hand. For 40 years I had dealt with corporate criminals, white-collar fraud, financial manipulation. But this was something darker, more personal, more evil than anything I had encountered in business. "Susan, I want you to contact Rebecca Martinez directly. Don't mention me or Emily, but make her understand that she's in danger." "Can you do that?" "Already done." I posed as a financial investigator looking into irregularities with her rent payments. "She's agreed to meet me tomorrow morning." "Good. What about Emily's medical situation?" "Dr. Harrison is cooperating with our investigation. Apparently Bradley's been forging Emily's signature on prescription requests and picking up medications without her knowledge. The doctor assumed Emily was experiencing post-traumatic stress from her mother's death and didn't question the escalating dosage requests." I closed my eyes. My wife Elizabeth had died suddenly of a heart attack 5 years ago. Emily had grieved deeply but recovered naturally. The idea that Bradley had weaponized that grief, used it as cover to systematically poison my daughter, filled me with a rage I had never experienced. Dr. Harrison has agreed to gradually reduce Emily's medications while monitoring her for withdrawal symptoms, Susan continued. Within 2 weeks she should be thinking clearly again. 2 weeks might be too long. Why? I told her about the board meeting I had scheduled, about my plan to expose Bradley publicly in front of the entire leadership team. I want Emily to see who her husband really is, but I need her to be mentally capable of understanding what's happening. Theodore, are you sure about this approach? You could handle this quietly. Have him arrested, divorced from Emily, prosecuted for embezzlement. Why the public confrontation? It was a question I had been asking myself all week. The answer went back to that moment in Pinnacle's lobby when Bradley had looked at me with such casual contempt. Because Bradley didn't just steal money, Susan. He stole my daughter's life. He stole her ability to think clearly, to make decisions, to trust her own judgment. He turned her against her father and made her believe she was mentally unstable. I paused, choosing my words carefully. When this ends, I want Emily to see exactly what kind of man she married. I want her to understand that every moment of confusion, every memory lapse, every feeling of inadequacy she's experienced for the past year wasn't her fault. It was him. And you want the entire business community to witness his downfall. Bradley built his career on charm and deception. He impressed clients with his confidence, colleagues with his apparent success, and my daughter with his sophistication. I want everyone who ever believed his lies to see the truth simultaneously. Susan was quiet for a long moment. There's one more thing, Theodore. Ms. Martinez isn't the only woman. My hand tightened on the phone. Explain. Credit card records show payments to an escort service. High-end operation, very discreet. Bradley's been a regular client for 8 months, spending an average of $3,000 per month using stolen money. Using stolen money. And Theodore, some of those charges occurred on days when Emily was in the hospital for anxiety attacks that we now know were drug overdoses. The room went very quiet. Outside my window the city continued its relentless movement. But inside my study everything had stopped. Susan, I want you to document everything. Every transaction, every prescription, every lie, every woman. When we walk into that board meeting next Friday, I want a complete record of exactly who Bradley Hutchinson really is. What about Emily? Shouldn't she know what's coming? Emily will be there. I'm going to invite her to lunch that day. Tell her I want to show her where her old dad works. She'll see everything unfold in real time. That's risky. If everything goes according to plan, Dr. Harrison is going to reduce her dosage starting tomorrow. By Friday she'll be alert enough to understand what's happening. And Susan, I want you there too. When Bradley tries to deny everything, I want law enforcement present to arrest him immediately. You're not just exposing him, Theodore. You're destroying him. Good. Thursday night, 24 hours before everything would change, I was in my study surrounded by documents that represented the most important case I had ever built, not for a client, not for profit, but for my daughter's life. Detective Mitchell arrived at 8 p.m. with FBI agent Patricia Wells, a specialist in white-collar crime who looked like she could dismantle a criminal enterprise before her morning coffee got cold. Mr. Whitman, Agent Wells said, settling into the chair across from my desk. Tomorrow's operation requires absolute precision. One mistake and Bradley Hutchinson could walk away from federal charges. Explain the timeline. She opened a thick folder. 1 p.m. Bradley receives confirmation that the board meeting is still scheduled. He believes he's being considered for promotion to senior vice president. Will he attend? According to his assistant, he's already confirmed he's excited about the opportunity. Detective Mitchell pulled out her phone. 1:15 p.m. Emily receives a call from someone claiming to be from Dr. Harrison's office asking her to come in immediately for urgent test results related to her recent blood work. She'll come. Dr. Harrison is genuinely concerned about her medication levels. The request is legitimate, just timed strategically. Agent Wells continued. 1:30 p.m. Emily arrives at Dr. Harrison's office where she'll receive the blood test results showing dangerously high levels of benzodiazepines and sleep medications far beyond what her medical condition requires. How will she react? According to Dr. Harrison, Emily's been asking questions about her memory problems. She's already suspicious that something's wrong. The test results will confirm her fears. I nodded. For the past week, as Dr. Harrison had gradually reduced Emily's medications, she had been calling me more frequently, not to apologize, but to ask confused questions about conversations she could not remember, decisions she did not recall making. 1:45 p.m., Detective Mitchell said. Dr. Harrison suggests that Emily might want to confront the person who's been managing her prescriptions. He'll recommend she visit Bradley at work to demand answers about why her medication dosage was so high. And she'll go to Pinnacle. Dr. Harrison believes she will. Emily's been increasingly concerned about gaps in her memory. Learning that she's been systematically overdosed will trigger a need for immediate answers. Agent Wells leaned forward. 2 p.m. exactly. Bradley walks into the Pinnacle Capital boardroom expecting a promotion interview. Instead, he finds the full board of directors, myself, Detective Mitchell, and a comprehensive presentation of his criminal activities. What about Emily? If everything goes according to plan, Emily will arrive at Pinnacle around 2:15 demanding to speak with Bradley about her prescriptions. Security will direct her to the boardroom where she'll witness the truth about her husband. I stood up and walked to my window. The city looked peaceful from 40 floors above the street, but I knew that in less than 18 hours Bradley Hutchinson's world would explode in that boardroom. Agent Wells, what are the charges? Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit financial fraud, drugging with intent to incapacitate, identity theft, and conspiracy to defraud. We're looking at 15 to 20 years federal time if convicted on all counts. And the evidence? Overwhelming. Bank records, recorded conversations, medical documentation, witness testimony from Rebecca Martinez, and Bradley's own admissions during your phone conversation Monday. Detective Mitchell added, the apartment lease with forged documents, the false identity he created for Ms. Martinez, the systematic theft from elderly clients, it's a prosecutor's dream case. What about Emily's inheritance? Protected, Agent Wells confirmed. The power of attorney documents are legally void due to the medical evidence of impaired judgment. Every dollar Bradley attempted to transfer has been frozen by federal order. I turned back to face them. And if Emily doesn't show up tomorrow? Then you'll have to rebuild your relationship with your daughter slowly over time, using the truth and the legal evidence to gradually convince her that Bradley was manipulating her. But if she does show up, Detective Mitchell smiled for the first time all week, if she shows up, Emily will see her husband arrested for federal crimes in front of the entire board of directors of Pinnacle Capital. She'll understand immediately that every doubt you raised, every concern you expressed, every investigation you ordered was completely justified. I picked up a photo of Emily from my desk. 40 years ago I started this company to protect people's financial futures. Tomorrow I am going to use everything I have learned to protect my daughter's life. Agent Wells stood up. Mr. Whitman, Bradley Hutchinson thinks he's outsmarted you. Tomorrow he learns the difference between cleverness and wisdom. Good. It's time he discovered what happens when you attack someone's family. Friday, October 20th, 2 p.m. I walked into the Pinnacle Capital boardroom knowing that the next hour would either save my daughter's life or destroy our relationship forever. The full board was present. Andrew Stone, our CFO, Janet Morrison from Human Resources, 5 external directors, and 2 empty chairs, one for Bradley, one for me at the head of the table. Bradley arrived precisely at 2, wearing his best suit and carrying a leather portfolio that probably contained the presentation he thought would earn him a promotion. Good afternoon everyone, he said confidently, shaking hands around the table. Thank you for considering me for the senior VP position. Agent Patricia Wells was seated in the corner, her FBI credentials clearly visible. Detective Susan Mitchell stood near the door. Bradley glanced at them curiously but did not seem alarmed. Mr. Hutchinson, I said from my position at the head of the table. Please take a seat. He looked at me with the same dismissive expression he had worn in the Pinnacle lobby 3 weeks ago. Excuse me sir, but I think there's been a mistake. This is a board meeting for Pinnacle Capital employees only. Andrew Stone cleared his throat. Bradley, I'd like you to meet Theodore Whitman, founder and chairman of the board of Pinnacle Capital Group. The color drained from Bradley's face. That's impossible, he whispered. Bradley, I said quietly, you've been working for me for 2 years. You've been stealing from my clients for 6 months, and you've been married to my daughter for 18 months. He looked around the table seeing the truth in every face. This is some kind of setup. Actually, Agent Wells said standing up, this is some kind of arrest. She placed a thick folder on the table. Mr. Bradley Hutchinson, you're under investigation for wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit financial crimes, and the systematic drugging of 2 women for purposes of financial manipulation. Bradley's confident mask finally slipped. You can't prove any of that. Andrew Stone opened his laptop. Account number CC 7854, Cayman National Bank. $2.3 million in stolen client funds transferred over 6 months in increments designed to avoid detection. That's your account open with forged documents. Receiving funds you embezzled from elderly clients who trusted Pinnacle Capital to protect their retirement savings. Detective Mitchell stepped forward. Rebecca Martinez, 415 East 79th Street, Apartment 21B. You've been maintaining a second family while married to Emily Whitman, using stolen money to pay for an apartment and a lifestyle you convinced Ms. Martinez was funded by your divorce proceedings. I can explain, Dr. Harrison's medical records, Agent Wells continued, showing that you've been systematically drugging both women with benzodiazepines and sleep medications at levels 3 times higher than therapeutic dosages. That is when the boardroom door opened. Emily walked in, her face pale but her eyes clear for the first time in months. Bradley. Her voice was small, confused. What's going on? Dr. Harrison said my blood test showed. Why are there FBI agents here? Bradley stood up so quickly his chair fell over. Emily, sweetheart, this is all a misunderstanding. Your father's been. Dr. Harrison told me I've been taking medications I never asked for, Emily said, her voice growing stronger. He said someone's been forging my signature on prescription requests. Emily, I said gently, sit down, sweetheart. She looked around the boardroom taking in the FBI agents, the legal documents, the faces of board members she had never met. Dad, what is this place? This is Pinnacle Capital Group, the company I founded 40 years ago, the company where Bradley works. Emily stared at me. You work here? I own it, sweetheart. I'm the chairman of the board. She turned to Bradley who was standing frozen by his overturned chair. You work for my father? Emily, I can explain everything. You've been working for my father for 2 years and you never told me. Agent Wells opened another folder. Mrs. Hutchinson, we need to inform you that your husband has been embezzling money from this company's clients. He's also been maintaining a second relationship with another woman using stolen funds to support both households. That's a lie, Bradley shouted. Emily, don't listen to them. Detective Mitchell placed photographs on the table, Bradley with Rebecca Martinez, keys to the apartment, bank records showing the monthly transfers. Emily picked up one of the photos. Her hands were shaking. Who is she? Bradley looked around the room desperately. Emily, she's nobody. These people are trying to destroy our marriage because your father can't accept that you chose me over his approval. I chose you, Emily said slowly. Because you told me my father was controlling and manipulative. You told me he was trying to interfere in our marriage. You told me I couldn't trust him. Because it's true. Then why, Emily said, her voice rising, have you been lying to me about where you work? Why have you been drugging me? Why don't I remember signing documents that gave you control of my inheritance? The room fell silent. Emily, I said quietly. Every concern I raised about Bradley, every question I asked about his work, every investigation I ordered, it was all to protect you. She looked at me with recognition dawning in her clear eyes. You've been trying to save me. Yes. She turned back to Bradley. And you've been trying to steal from me. Bradley made one last desperate attempt. Emily, I love you. We can work this out. We can leave here together. And Mr. Bradley Hutchinson, Agent Wells said stepping forward with handcuffs, you're under arrest. As the handcuffs clicked shut, Bradley looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, old man. I stood up slowly with all the dignity 40 years of business had taught me. Yes, Bradley, it is. 6 months later I was sitting in the same boardroom where Bradley's world had collapsed reading the final sentencing report. 18 years federal prison, Andrew Stone said reviewing the court documents. Full restitution of $2.7 million including penalties and interest. What about Rebecca Martinez? Relocated to Denver, enrolled in business school. She's doing well. Turns out she's quite intelligent when she's not being systematically drugged and manipulated. I sat down the papers and looked around the boardroom. 6 months ago this room had witnessed the end of Bradley Hutchinson's criminal career. Today it was witnessing something more important, the beginning of my daughter's recovery. Emily walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee, her movements confident and purposeful in a way I had not seen since before her marriage. Dad, Detective Mitchell called. Bradley's appeal was denied. The conviction stands. She handed me my coffee and sat down across from the table where her husband had been arrested. How are you feeling about that? Emily considered the question carefully. Relieved and grateful. She paused and angry at Bradley, at myself for not seeing it sooner, for doubting you, for letting him convince me that my own father was the enemy. I reached across the table and took her hand. Emily, you were being systematically poisoned. Your judgment was chemically impaired. None of what happened was your fault. But I said terrible things to you. I chose him over you. I believed his lies about your motivations. You were protecting what you thought was your marriage. That's not wrong, sweetheart. That's loyalty. She smiled but there were tears in her eyes. How did you stay so calm through all of it? How did you know I'd eventually see the truth? Because 40 years of business taught me that the truth always wins. Eventually. It might take time. It might require patience, but reality has a way of exposing lies. Emily nodded and pulled out a folder. I wanted to show you something. She opened it to reveal legal documents establishing the Emily Whitman Foundation for Financial Abuse Prevention. $50 million to help other women who've been financially manipulated by people they trusted. Legal aid, counseling services, educational programs about recognizing financial abuse. I read through the mission statement feeling proud of my daughter in a way I had not experienced since her college graduation. This is remarkable, Emily. I want to make sure no other woman goes through what I did. And Dad, I want you to be the foundation's first board chairman. I looked at her, this strong, clear-minded woman who had emerged from 18 months of chemical manipulation with her values intact and her determination stronger than ever. I'd be honored. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. There's one more thing. I recorded a statement for other women who might be in similar situations. She pressed play. My name is Emily Whitman. 6 months ago I was married to a man who was systematically drugging me to steal my inheritance. I didn't realize I was being abused because the abuse was invisible, medications that affected my memory, my judgment, my ability to trust my own perceptions. Her voice was steady, strong. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, please know that recovery is possible. Please know that the people who love you aren't your enemies. They're trying to save you from someone who is. She turned off the recorder. That's going to help a lot of people, sweetheart. Emily smiled. Good. Because the best revenge against someone who tried to destroy your life is building something beautiful from the pieces they left behind. I raised my coffee cup. To building something beautiful. To family, Emily replied, and to quiet power. We drank our coffee in comfortable silence, two survivors who had learned that love, patience, and truth could overcome even the most sophisticated deception. Outside the window, New York City continued its relentless movement. But inside that boardroom everything was exactly as it should be. 1 year later I was standing in the lobby of the brand new Whitman Center for Financial Literacy watching Emily cut the ribbon on our foundation's first permanent facility. The crowd included Rebecca Martinez, now a certified financial counselor, Dr. Harrison, who had become an expert witness in medical manipulation cases, and Detective Susan Mitchell, who had started a consulting firm helping families investigate financial abuse. Dad, Emily said, joining me after the ceremony. I have something to tell you. What's that, sweetheart? I'm dating someone. I felt the old protective instincts rise up, then forced myself to breathe calmly. Tell me about him. His name is James Crawford Jr. He's a public interest lawyer. Works with domestic abuse survivors. And before you ask, yes, I've run a background check. Yes, he knows everything about Bradley. And yes, he's agreed to family dinner once a week so you can get to know him properly. I smiled. What else? He knows that any man who wants to be part of my life has to understand that my family comes first, that my father's approval matters, that trust is earned slowly and proven over time, and he's comfortable with that. He said, any woman who survived what you survived and built something positive from it is worth waiting for. I looked around the center at the counselors helping elderly clients understand their financial statements, at the support groups for abuse survivors, at the educational programs Emily had designed. I'm proud of you, Emily, not just for surviving Bradley, but for choosing to help others survive similar situations. I learned from the best. She paused. Dad, I need to ask you something. Anything. If James turns out to be another Bradley, if I miss the signs again, if I choose wrong again, will you save me? The question broke my heart and filled me with hope simultaneously. Emily, I'll always protect you. But I don't think you'll need saving again. Why? Because you've learned to save yourself. As we walked through the center past the classrooms and counseling offices and resource libraries, I thought about the lessons this ordeal had taught us both. Quiet power beats loud arrogance. Truth always wins, but it requires patience. Family means protecting each other even when the threat comes from within. And sometimes the greatest victory is not destroying your enemy, it is building something beautiful from the damage they tried to cause. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrew Stone. Board meeting Tuesday at 2 p.m. standard agenda. No drama expected. I smiled and put the phone away. No drama expected. After 41 years in business, that sounded perfect.